r/entitled parents by Reddit time. Fun with an entitled parent on 9/11. Bit of background. I worked in a call center dealing with an early incarnation of online grocery shopping in 2000/2001. It's a well-known supermarket in the UK with orange branding, which is slightly more aspirational, but still fairly big, meaning that many of the customers were entitled AF. I worked an evening shift as I was at college in the day, and on September 11th 2001, I had been at home working on coursework, and along with many millions of others had seen the horror of what happened that day unfold live on TV. I headed into work at around 5 PM that day. Management had scribbled on the whiteboard "Site slow today." This was due to the whole world trying to get online to find out what had transpired that day. Anyone who remembers this day will remember how scary and momentous it felt. One of my calls that day was one of the most entitled people I had ever spoken with. Hello, I can't do my online shop today as your site keeps crashing. Me. Oh, I'm very sorry. I have been informed that the volume of global traffic today on the web is causing our site to be less responsive due to the terrorist incident. I don't care. I want my shopping. Me. Did she actually just say that? I'm very sorry, madam. There's very little we can do. I have just been told that even the BBC website is struggling with the amount of traffic. Did you see what happened today? It's really not my problem. I don't care what's going on. I need my groceries and you need to get them to me. Otherwise my baby won't get any milk. At this point I checked the customer's address to see if she lived in a rural or remote community. She lived in central London. Not really sure how I will be able to rationalize with this horrible entitled mum. Me. I'm very sorry, but many of our customers are having issues with our site today. We are expecting that internet speeds will return to normal later on or tomorrow. Yells, I want my baby milk. I don't care. Me. Please do not shout at me. I will terminate the call if you do. If you don't get me my baby's milk I will have to the store. I asked to put the entitled mum on hold and asked one of the team leaders how I could seek resolution with this nut job. TL. Well, we don't control the speed of people's internet. She will have to try again tomorrow. Shortly before I cut the off, I was actually considering whether I needed to pass her details to social services as she was telling me her baby won't get any milk. Absolutely outrageous. You and solely you are responsible for feeding your crotch goblin. I lost a lot of hope for the human race that day. Entitled parents let kids steal and eat my emergency candy stash. Type 1 diabetic. Entitled parents let kids steal and eat my emergency candy stash. Type 1 diabetic. I'm a family law mediator and work at the downtown courthouse. There's no food or drink allowed, and the closest stores are about a mile away. Despite this, my supervisors allow me to have my own stash of candy in my office in case of emergency. I'm type 1 diabetic and sometimes I need a bit of sugars. It's just a small Ziploc bag with M&Ms. Anyway, yesterday morning I was mediating a couple over custody of their twin 8-year-old boys. They all showed up in pajamas/sweats, and the parents couldn't be bothered to control their children. The twins were running around the table, standing on the chairs, and spinning in them, smearing their hands on the windows, just being disruptive. At one point, they started tugging at their mom and begging for something to eat. It had been only 30 minutes. Where's your vending machine? Me, we don't have one of those, I'm sorry. Well, why not? Me, food isn't allowed in the building, ma'am, but our session is almost over. Kid 1, she's lying, mom. I saw food in the candy drawer. Kid 2 lit up when he heard this, ran towards me, knocking over our documents from the table and pushing my arm out of the way, and opened my candy drawer. It wasn't a candy drawer, by the way. It was just the drawer I kept my stationery supplies and my M&Ms. I stood up in between the kid and the drawer as he rummaged through it. Completely irritated at this point, I closed the drawer and asked the parents if they wanted to reschedule. Ed, you almost slammed my boy's hand over some candy. That was a gross over-exaggeration, of course. I told them I needed that candy because of my diabetes, to which gave me an incredibly dirty look. If you've got diabetes, you don't need the candy. Just let them have some for Christ's sake. Me, I'm type 1 diabetic. I'm sorry but we are going to need to reschedule. It started arguing with Em about how she always ruins everything, and Em responded by doubling down on her stance. She's wanting to kick us out because sugar is like drugs to diabetics. Ed and Em continued to argue, and as I went to call in for security, Kid 1 stuck his foot out and tried to trip me. Luckily I didn't fall, but he distracted me just enough for Kid 2 to pull open the drawer and take the bag. The twins started running around, tossing the M&Ms at each other trying to catch it in their mouths, while the entitled parents continued to yell at each other. I called security, which stopped the entitled parents arguing. Are you seriously calling security over candy? I think that was the point. I lost all professionalism. I needed that in case my blood sugar got too low. Now look. It's all over my carpet and your kid's hands. Security came up, and the twins tried to bolt of the room, unsuccessfully. Ed and security nearly got into a fight before being forced to leave. I took my break early and got another bag of M&Ms. Em leaves her toddler with me while I have to work. So this happened about 4 or 5 years ago when I still lived in my old hometown and worked at my favorite cafe/bar. We called it out living room because everyone felt like home when spending there. Even though I loved this comfort, it led to the following occurrence. I was working a quiet afternoon shift serving some people coffee and not thinking much. Because the town is so quiet, we had to work alone in the afternoon, especially in the colder seasons, simply because there wasn't enough work for a second person. So as I backquote Em, there a regular comes in with her youngest son, about 3 years, and sits down with him. I greet them casually and ask if they want anything to drink. That's when Em remembers she has to get something from the pharmacy. So she gets up and dressed again. She tries to put her son INJECT on, but he refuses. He simply didn't want to go outside again and wanted to stay there. They argue for a few seconds, not much, but how you would with a 3-year-old. I didn't think much of this situation until I hear the M say something to him. Well, if you don't want to come along, you will stay here. Op can look after you. A bit overwhelmed by the situation, I didn't say anything, or maybe I said now, and she said something along of, it's just a few minutes, or it won't bother you. So she's out before I can actually process what just happened. So there I am, early evening in a bar with a toddler and other customers. As I remember, a few coworkers of mine came by coincidence and spent the time by entertaining him until the mother came back. She didn't seem to understand what the problem was in this case. Inject my son with orange juice. A hospital M story. TL. Doctor at end. I'm currently working as a professional mental health nurse. This incident took place back when I was a student nurse and was posted in the pediatric ward. We had a boy in the general ward who had been admitted with a case of viral fever, I think. By the time I started my posting, he had been there for about 3 to 4 days. As soon as entered the ward, the M hounded me. Excuse me. I have been saying the same thing over and over again, but you people just don't listen. Do you? Me. Well, hello ma'am. I'm sorry, what seems to be the problem here? This is my first day here, and I don't really know. Well then why are you here? If you don't know anything, go back and send someone who's not as stupid as you. Though I highly doubt anyone in this hospital really has a brain. Me. I apologize again ma'am, but if could just tell me what's wrong, then I might be able to sort it out. Well, I've been telling your people for the past few days that my son doesn't like apple juice. He likes orange juice and you should give him that. But nobody's listening to me. He's still getting apple juice. And even that is of really bad quality. Me. Okay, it seems that the good folks down in the kitchen have it wrong. Don't worry ma'am, I'll consult with the nutritionist and we'll have this sorted out in no time. M just scoffed and marched away. I talked with the nutritionist and asked why the kid was being forced to take apple juice when he didn't like it. But she told me that the kid wasn't getting apple juice. In fact, he wasn't getting juice at all. He was getting milk with almost every meal. Now I was confused. I talked to the M and she shouted at me how I was stupid like the rest of the staff. Just then breakfast arrived. Sure enough, the kid had milk and not juice. Me. Ma'am, the nutritionist suggested milk for your kid and that's what he's getting. He's not getting apple juice. No, you idiot, he gets that with his lunch and not breakfast. deciding to see what the issue was once and for all. I promised her I'll come back at lunchtime to settle the issue. Lunch arrived and the kid got, you guessed it, milk. I again pointed this out to the M, and she said the kid gets the apple juice after the lunch. Okay, what? I was really puzzled then. Just then a nurse arrived to administer the afternoon medications. See, now he'll be getting that nasty apple juice. Just then, the nurse hung a bag of saline by the kid's bedside and injected a vial of 1006 multivitamin infusion in it and connected it with the kid's fourth line. The 1006 injections we had in our hospital were yellow colored and smelled like someone just farted 3 days worth of tacos. And that's when I had the epiphany of what had been M's issue. And being the considerate creature she was, she confirmed my suspicions with a horrible screech. See, I told you. Apple juice. Nasty smelling a page's ledger. Me. Well, say something. Me. Ma'am, that's not apple juice. It's an injection. Don't you dare lie to me. Everybody else has been saying the same thing, but I know the truth. You people have orange juice. I've seen it. Give my son that. Put orange juice in that bag. All subsequent attempts to explain to her failed. She screamed loudly and disturbed other patients as well. The attending physician heard all the commotion and came to see what the matter was. He also tried to explain that her son was in fact being given an injection, but she refused to believe that we weren't injecting her son with apple juice and that juice couldn't be given intravenously. Doctor, fine. If this is apple juice, then I supposed you wouldn't mind a taste. And with that the awesome doc disconnected the fourth line, poured some of that nasty apple juice in a plastic cup, and shoved it under M's nose, who promptly gagged. Doctor, oh please. Have some juice, and we'll give your son different one. You'll like it, I promise. Naturally M refused. She never asked for orange juice again. But I heard from other patients that the M had been blabbering about suing us for injecting her son with bad quality apple juice and then making a fool of her. And that's the true reason, folks, why Thanos wanted to eradicate us. Maybe he had a one too many encounters with unhinged eps. TL. Doctor, M refuses to believe her son is being given an injection, not apple juice, via the fourth line, demands we inject her son with orange juice. M says it's okay if I buy her kid a snack. I don't know either of them, but okay. Lol. My husband likes to tease me that I'm a magnet for drama, especially with entitled people. If I go out to do errands, it's almost guaranteed that I'll have a run-in with someone. I guess I just have that kind of face that lets people think, yeah, let's mess with her. Anyway, onto the first of many experiences I've had. Several years ago, when my oldest child was 14, he played basketball for our local recreational center league. His team made it to the semi-finals of the championship, so we had to spend most of our morning on the Saturday the games were being held. Now, the rec center isn't very large, but they decided to hold all of the playoff games there. The gym had 2 full-size courts, which meant only 2 games could be played at a time. There was about 15 minutes before my son's game, so I took my younger son to the vending machines to get a snack. Now, because all of the games were in one spot, the time before and after each game was absolute chaos with people trying to come and go, we managed to slip through the crush and duck into the small alcove that housed the vending machines. When we arrived, there was a little girl, already there, maybe 7 or 8 years old. She was standing in front of the candy machine, just eyeing everything. Younger son, and I stepped over to the soda machine to get him a drink, then moved over to the candy machine. Without a word, stepped to the side to let us look. Pointed out a Snickers bar that he wanted, so I inserted the money, pushed the right buttons, and watched the candy bar fall. Before could bend down to grab it, had already snatched it from the machine. Me, excuse me, that's not yours, sweetie. I hold out my hand for her to give it back. Clutching the candy to her chest. It's okay, my mom said you could buy me a treat. Me, confused, who's your mom? Turned to point towards the crowd of people, but I couldn't see who she was supposed to be pointing to. I grabbed the candy bar back while she's not paying attention and hand it to my son, who was looking a bit confused at this point. Began to cry, which was a homing beacon for her. M suddenly appeared beside her daughter. She's wearing a ton of makeup, Her blonde hair is teased and frozen in place with extra strength hairspray. She's orange from a bottle or two of self tanner, and her clothes are 2 sizes too small. What's wrong, honey? She took my candy bar. Turned to me, her face already twisted in anger. But I cut her off. Me, is she your daughter? A bit surprised that I cut her off. Yes. Me, why did you tell her that it was okay for me to buy her something? I don't know you or her. Why would I do that? Scoffs. Well, you. Me, well, nothing. You're her mom. You buy her something if she's hungry. I've learned that if you don't let entitled people build up steam, they give up pretty quick. I grabbed this and led him back to our seats in the gym. I'm not sure if yelled after us because the noise level was high, but I didn't care. Turns out, M's son was on the opposing team, so she sat on the other side of the gym glaring at me throughout the entire game, not cheering for her son. My son's team beat hers. BTW.